Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now diving into our discussion segment. As 2025 draws to a close, it's time to reflect on the major political developments that have shaped Nigeria this year. From debates over governance and security to shifts in party politics, Nigerians have witnessed significant events. Earlier this year, President Bola Tinubu presented the 2026 budget, highlighting priorities for economic growth and social development. Now, the year also saw heated discussions in the National Assembly, particularly around new tax laws, raising questions about transparency, accountability, and public confidence. On the electoral front, regional and local elections tested political alliances and influenced the balance of power in several states. Now, opposition parties, civil society groups, and youth movements also played key roles, pushing for reforms and greater accountability from the government. Now, security challenges, including insurgency and communal conflicts, further shaped political discourse and policy decisions across the country. So today, we will analyze these developments, discuss their implications for governance and democracy, and explore what lessons Nigeria can take into 2026. Joining us is Emmanuel Osemeka, political analyst and public affairs commentator, to help us unpack these issues in details. Stay with us as we review 2025 and examine what the year's political events mean for Nigeria's future. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Osemeka. I'm very excited to have you here. I'd like to hear your view of what 2025 means in the political scene in Nigeria. Now, what would you say is the single most consequential decision taken by the federal government, and who has benefited most from it?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. That's a question, a $1 million question.
And we'll get $1 billion answer.
Well, I mean, we'll try. I think 2025 has been quite an eventful year. 2025 began with lots and lots of politics and politicking. You know, I think it was early this year or last year where, I clearly defined who the president of Nigeria, is.
Your projection?
Yeah, many people are still yet to understand that the personality of the leader, the president, of reflects largely within the society. Yes, some may say, but we have other 36 state governors who are supposed to be leaders at the subnational. But they forget that Nigerian system is slightly different. We tout ourselves to be the Federal Republic of Nigeria, whereas we do not operate a federal system. What we operate is a unitary system of government, masqueraded in the title democracy, and supposedly assuming or pretending to have a federating system. Unfortunately, that's not what we have. So when you have a president who is described as a super master strategist, who has, gained notoriety in politicking, of course, you don't expect anything less. So when you take a cursory look from January to December across, our different sectors, life, all you see is 100% politics. You barely can sit here today and point at any particular project that the federal government have done in 2025. It's all work in progress, everything. Be it road construction, be it hospitals, which I don't think there's any hospital that's been built or been renovated. Take, for example, FCT, for example, we have the worst hospital system in the history of the FCT. Waste disposal in the FCT is worse off. I'm using it as an example because the president is supposed to be the head of the FCTA, but of course, run by a minister on his behalf. I've never seen Abuja as dirty as Abuja is in my 30 years in this place. Abuja is dirty, extremely dirty. I've never seen it in my 30 years in the FCT.
Well,
that speaks volume to the type and kind of leaders we have today. You go across the length and breadth of our social experiment, you can't find anything but just pure politics.
Now, you made mention that the president is a master strategist, especially when it comes to politics. And you say throughout this year, we haven't seen any major projects that have happened so far. Everything is a work in progress. So at this point, can you say that even in the future, are we just seeing governance driven by more long-term national strategy? Because at the end of the day, they're always saying work in progress. We should have patience, wait and see. Or do you think that is short-term political survival at this point?
So when you understand, the vision, when I use the word vision, I'm talking about the site, from where the prism, the leader, sees things in the country, or sees himself, or sees his political evolution. His political evolution, I use that advisedly. You will clearly understand what is going on and why, many have complained, that second term electioneering began too early, maybe within a year in the administration, or even less than a year, of the lifetime of the administration. You would understand that what has happened is that in 2023, the current leadership took for granted a lot of things. And they didn't believe that Nigerians have evolved to the extent that they would get the level of shock they got with the results that shown that, of course, is completely at variance with what finally we saw. You've heard many times here and there where people say, for example, Senator Abaribe the other day, very vocal, openly said, it was talking to one of your colleagues in another station, that this man did not win. You'll also hear the likes of El-Rufai and some other Babashir Lawal say similar thing, and many others, clearly. So because of 2023, because of the happenings of 2023, because of what they saw happen during the elections of 2023, now they are being extra careful. And that's why you see a lot of political machination, you see a lot of emasculation of the opposition, you see a lot of all the opposition's political parties in Nigeria, without exception, are having one problem or the other. The question is why?
Now, speaking of these political parties or political oppositions, we've seen all through 2025 different aspects go on. We've seen the emergence of the ADC. We've seen how much debacle has gone on in the PDP. So far, a lot are saying that it's still a sinking ship and we still don't have the house in order. We've seen the Labour Party. We don't even hear of the Labour Party at this point, and we're going into 2026, moving to the election yet. So far, do you think that it was a carefully planned strategy, making sure that all of these people that are major oppositions, especially the PDP, that we do know are being silenced and, cut down from their Achilles heel?
Absolutely. I mean, the strategy is simple and very straightforward. Don't allow any of them to be on the ballot. That's the reality.
Well, the biggest question before you continue, do you think Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the FCT, is part of that plan in making sure that they have less of an opposition, more of a one-party system?
It's very visible to the eye and very loud in the ears of everyone that he is a major architect. That's the truth. Unfortunately, there is a game that is ongoing. Politics is a game. It's a game of interests. It's not a game where you play it with emotion, all right? You look at the whole machination, you will see clearly that because our leaders have concentrated 99.9% of their time in politics, by extension of that, they neglected governance. And that's why you see the kind of things we are seeing. I mean, Take, for example, every successive government, be it from 1999 all the way to 2015, even up to 2023, every successive government, even during the military era, you will see that between August and November, what they try to do, if they don't build new roads or open new arterial roads or join roads to be able to ease off traffic, what they do is that they make sure that all the arterial roads we have in Nigeria become motorable so as to ease traffic and reduce, travel time. But this is the first time in the history of Nigeria where for 2 years running, we've not had any meaningful activities within the major arterial roads, especially within this period. In the last 4 days, people have been sleeping on the highways of Nigeria.
Yes.
From Lagos to Abuja, from Lagos to the southeast, from Abuja to the southeast, from Abuja to the Lagos, across length and breadth, people are sleeping on the road. Journeys of 9 hours now take 3 days. Why? Because of failure of governance. Why? Because our leaders are more interested in politics. They have, evolved from being, people-driven, political, entity to, perpetrate myself and my cronies in government. That's why you see that out of 36 states in Nigeria, 29 states currently is in APC.
Now, speaking
is
about
it because the APC is better?
Now, speaking about those defections,
yes.
We've heard a lot of back and forth when it comes to reasons that people or governors have defected to the APC. A lot would say that, first off, it might be interest. Second off, it might be coercion as well. And third, some might be there just for the wave of it as a bandwagon. So what do you think is going on? Is it a strategy that has been put in place in making sure that there is so much strength when it comes to having a stronghold when it comes to 2027 election?
It's very unfortunate that even our leaders and managers of the main political party do not understand the Nigerian political evolution, even in 2025. If you take a look at 2019 election and 2023 election, you will see clearly that, yes, APC dominated in 2019 as a political party because, they had massive presence in many, I think about 22 states or 23 states, if I'm not mistaken. Ditto 2023. PDP had about 11 or thereabout, or 15, I'm not too sure, between 11 and 15 governors and all that. But you saw what happened. In PDP states, PDP lost woefully. In APC states, APC lost woefully. So in many states that didn't even have the regular cycle, election, states where you have off-cycle governorship election,
yes.
the ruling party in those states lost terribly. Now, any right-thinking Nigerian or any proper student of political history in Nigeria would take a seat and see that there's a shift within the Nigerian political, system. It's no longer a time where once you belong to this political party, automatically you win an election. No. Nigeria has evolved. Nigeria has gone beyond that. Why? Because the chicken has begun to come home and it's properly being roasted, But the issue is that most often, because of the volume of, power, when I use power, I'm talking about the monies that those in authority see, it blinds them. That's why you would see that a man becomes a governor for 8 years. After 8 years, he wants to put somebody in office, not because he feels, okay, that person will carry on his legacy, but because he wants to continue to remote control. He wants to remote control the person. He wants to determine how the person breathes. He wants to determine how the person sleeps. He wants to determine how the person takes first step. He wants to tell the person, don't take first left step, take right first step. So you see that kind of things happening across Nigeria. But the same individual who has occupied that office for 8 years forgets that when he was the governor, he, had so much power as a governor, that he can do so many things. And he also forgets that that red pen is in the hands of the person that signs it, and the person can do anything. That's why you see that in the last couple of weeks or months, you see in 1 or 2 states, you see there's this realignment that is happening, and is knocking off some things, and some of the permutations have begun to shift because people do not learn from history.
Now, speaking of states, we always put our focus on the federal government.
Yep.
We always put our focus on the presidency when it comes to election as well.
Yes.
But we know what goes on in the states.
True.
We know how much that is needed to change
Yep.
when it comes to governance in states, accountability, responsibility, transparency as well, making sure that the people, you're closest to the people. So do you think that moving on, we've seen what happened all through the year. We've seen only personal interests take play when it comes to governance in Nigeria. Do you think moving on and moving towards the election year, during the election, do you think the people have opened their eyes, are seeing what is really clear and glaring to them, making sure that they have different perspectives and choices in picking the people that are responsible in making sure that they are put on the straight and narrow? Or do you think that we're just going to carry on business as usual?
Unfortunately, a lot of the political actors today and the drivers of our system, have this notion that once you're in authority, you can do whatever you like and get away with it. Like the mantra with this administration across, both from the president to the governors and what have you, what I hear, the language is that whatever money cannot solve, more money will solve it. Unfortunately, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life. The reality is that in the past, Nigeria has consistently played politics of money. And because of that kind of politics, the leaders have weaponized poverty across the board. And you see it at the ballot, polling units where you see a lot of vote buying and all that. And because they have weaponized poverty to the extent that even the ordinary people no longer reason with their brains, because you are buying 4 years for 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000. That 20,000 cannot even buy you a bag of rice. A bag of rice, the longest it will serve you if you're eating it alone is 6 months. So 6 months out of 4 years, they're buying your franchise for 20,000. When you sit down and think on it, you realize how bad and how backward the system had gotten. Because in the past, what you see is that a year preceding the election, you see the government working frantically to deliver something so that they can campaign on those things. But in recent past, there's no attempt to deliver anything.
They've become comfortable.
They become so comfortable that they can buy their way out. Unfortunately, 2023 proved that you can spend money, but you will not be able to buy your way out. Unfortunately, one way or the other, some were able to buy their way through. If you look at what is going on at the National Assembly, a lot of the folks who were in the opposition party, because if you remember, when they were about to elect the leadership of the National Assembly, you saw the dilemma, because the opposition was massive and it was robust. So many political parties, mixed number of political representation. But today, what do you see? This bandwagon effect has happened because 99% of those who have moved have done absolutely nothing. So there's nothing to go back home to tell the people, haven't campaigned on substance, to go back and say, I campaigned on this, I've delivered this. Because they've been unable to deliver that, they find it difficult to go back to tell the people. So what have they done? The ruling party promises you get automatic tickets. And because of automatic ticket, they are going there. But they forgot one thing. They lost out, many of them lost out in their various political parties, PDP, APC, and went to other political parties and won the election, defeating the supposed incumbents. This is some of the a memory loss that our people experience once they become leaders. Like, I had a conversation with a few friends of mine who are members of the National Assembly, and I was taken aback because I saw that they do not understand what our current realities are.
Now, speaking of the National Assembly, so far we have seen a sway in movements toward the ruling party. Now, at this point, throughout 2025, we saw a lot of back and forth when it came to controversies, when it came to the lack of accountability, holding people accountable in the National Assembly. And so far, a lot of Nigerians would say, because of the mood in the National Assembly, it seems like everything goes in and comes out as if that is the mark of a rubber stamp, approvals everywhere. So do you think that they are just relaxed and feel like they can move forth no matter what it is happens in the National Assembly? No accountability and no responsibility as well, because I say responsibility, you have to be responsible for the people that you're representing in the National Assembly.
That goes back to what I've always campaigned and advocated for every time I have the opportunity. It is very unfortunate that many of our leaders or political elites today, have what I call, I'm trying to find that appropriate word. They seem to forget so quickly where they're coming from. 1, 2, many of them are product of activism, political activism. And today they believe that running into the major political party, the ruling party, will secure the future for them. I will shock you. Many second-term governors are going to lose their seats in 2027. Mark today. You see, what people don't understand is that the president will look out for himself. He will compel all the political actors to look out for him. They may succeed, but with the mood of the nation, it's going to be a tall task. Why? Nigerians have suffered, and they are still suffering. The president's policies are very, very unpopular. The president sacrificed governance on the altar of politics, and by extension, Nigerians are still suffering. We went into this frenzy of inflation across the food, the urban, the rural, name it, across every aspect. It's been very difficult in Nigeria in the past 20 years to even borrow money to do business. It's worse off now. The minimum interest rate you can get to borrow money is 40% or 45%. That's if they are going to give it to you. Now, what has happened? Over time, what did they do? They rebased the economy. With that rebased economy, new numbers came out. Those new numbers, in the real sense of it, did not nullify the numbers that we had before. So we had a 38% inflation rate. The rebased economy dropped it to about 20%. 20% still represents the magnitude of the 38%. It's not 20%. So today you have 14%. It's not 14%. We're still at it in our 20s. But the reality is that because the numbers are staring us in the face, it appears like there is some movement. There's no movement. We remain where we are. And because we are largely, very uneducated society, some educated but quite illiterate, excuse that, but that is our reality. So you see the leadership we turn out, they get in there because they lack understanding of the basics. Sometimes the conversations go on in front of them. They are unable to grasp the immediate, short and long-term implication of those decisions. That's why you see that most often you see that policies and laws are made, and 6 months, 7 months down the line, you're talking to National Assembly members, they're like, no, that's not what we thought we were doing. No, you didn't understand it in the first instance, because as a member of the National Assembly, you must not be that vast in knowledge. What you do is that you employ people who will help you.
Do you think that is the same thing that's happening when it comes to the tax law?
Oh, absolutely. The tax law case is completely different. What happened with the tax law is much more than what we are talking about. Because if the allegations are true, that is fraud. That is criminality taken too far.
Absolutely.
You see, it is impossible for the National Assembly, for the Parliament, to make a law. And either from the time it was transmitted to the President for assent, between that transmission, alterations were made by whoever, not the National Assembly. Or after it was signed, between this, after the signature and the gazetting, those alterations were made. That is monumental criminality against the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the reality is that the president ought to take it very, very serious, because that's an impeachable offense. All right. Unfortunately.
Now, looking at accountability and transparency, but majorly accountability, we've heard this so much that when you defect from one party to the ruling party, which is the APC, all your sins are forgiven. Now, at this point, do you think that so far in 2025, there's been so much fight when it comes to anti-corruption, especially focused more maybe on prevention and as well as punishment as well, because we hear these cases, we hear arrests, we hear going to court and all of that, and then all of a sudden poof, it disappears. So do you think that we will see more of accountability, or it is something that we can hear it but we can't see it?
You know, when Mr. I think it's Kayode, right? The EFCC chairman. What's his name? Mr. Is it Olukayode or Olufemi? I can't. The gentleman at the helm of EFCC. Pardon me for using the wrong name. I'm trying to recollect his name. When he was brought forward, you know, I looked at his background. You know, he majored in fraud prevention, and he was the secretary of EFCC for a long time. Though there was a report at that time, the Salami report, indicted him as well with Ibrahim Lamudi and the rest of them. But that's not even the case. The issue for me was that when I saw a man with such background, I thought that going forward, that it would be so easy for the EFCC to, you know, begin to do a lot of mitigation, begin to do a lot of preventive activities to forestall. And also, I also thought that whatever case they bring forward, that it will be watertight, given the pedigree of the leader, because I believe that the kind of leader you are, you know, will reflect on the people that you bring close to you. But unfortunately, I was wrong. For almost 3 years now, we've had a lot of sensationalism. A particular case is one is the case of the former governor of Kogi State. EFCC produced incontrovertible evidence, yet it was not proved in court. But there were clear evidence of monies, state monies moving from state accounts to a BDC, from a BDC transferred. So they traced the wire transfer was seen. People were arrested, they made confessional statements indicting the immediate past governor. The immediate past governor was declared wanted for upward of 1 year. There were dramas left and right. Even the sitting governor, you know, used his immunity. I mean, I've never heard that before, that you can use your immunity to create immunity for somebody. That's not what the Constitution...
We're in Nigeria, you can see anything.
That's not what the Constitution said. But today, the former Kogi State governor is working in Freeman. We have no idea what happened. We have no idea how that case ended up, or how...
And many cases before that.
So you look at that and you're like, wow. Nigeria, the more you look, the less you see. That's why I go back to say to you that the leadership sees everything from the political point of view. And if you can be politically positive for the administration, I just leave it there. So the reality is that what we see is not the absence of the will. It's just about the interest of the leadership. If the interest of the leadership suits, if you fit the interest of the leadership, then excellent. If you don't, unfortunately, that's why you see, and it appears like, oh, they are going across party line. It's not. They're not going across party line. They are all members of one single family, and they have one objective, and that is what is going on. It is about them versus Nigerians, the rest of us. And unfortunately, the error is that when you take the people for granted for so long, you might not know what the people will do tomorrow. The only thing, there's this, gists out there that they said the only thing remaining for the Tinubu administration to tax Nigerians on is the air we breathe. Because practically everything has been taxed. Electricity has been taxed. Pay-per-view, whatever, has been taxed. Water bill has been taxed. Your bank account, you put in money, they tax you. You withdraw money, they tax you. At the end of the day, you pay tax. It's a crime to actually make money in Nigeria, because when you make money in Nigeria, you must pay government their own share. It's alarming. Value-added tax is on the concurrent exclusive list. But for the first time in the history of Nigeria, the National Assembly made law for that, and the president signed it. I've never heard of that before. Value-added tax is supposed to be a state affair. It's not a federal affair. They can, for the purpose of administration, they can have a conversation and have meetings and MOU, but not law by the National Assembly. I mean, there are so many things that have happened that sometimes you sit down, you're like, is it that we don't understand the spirit and the letter anymore, or is it that we don't even understand ourselves anymore? So I see a tough task ahead of the 2026. I see a Herculean task for the INEC, for example. I mean, take for example, a political party is having, internal issues, and for whatever is worth, one group did this, the other group did this. One group appeared to be a majority, and they went ahead to follow their laws and did a convention. And in the convention, they took decisions. Another group illegally, because that's a word, illegally created an executive, and with the help of the security agencies, perpetuated themselves in office with just one man who was supposed to be, whose office expired in December, and he continued to entrench himself. And the INEC decided to call the two of them factions. It has never happened in the history of Nigeria where INEC is not supposed to be a dispute resolution agency. INEC is supposed to be neutral. What INEC ought to do is, okay, you are claiming, fine. Yes, what you should have done was, if this one writes to him, he will say, sorry, we cannot deal with you because there's a case in court. Until that case in court is dispensed with. So what the two of them can do is, you can go, where INEC is not going to tell them, go ahead and do your conventions or go ahead and do whatever you want to do. If you send whatever, we'll keep it. You send, we'll keep it, but we'll not publish it. When the law judgment comes, whoever it comes in favor will put the name of that. That's what INEC ought to do, not to come and say, shit your sword. No, it's not your place. So there's a lot of misnomer going on in the polity that sometimes you wonder, are we having an authoritarian system? Are we in a communist environment? Are we borrowing from the Donald Trump America of today? Or are we borrowing from Vladimir Putin? I mean, you don't even know. So today is a Republican, the next one is communism, the next one is socialism. So you're not sure where we are.
Now, speaking of these kind of trends, especially in politics, quickly before we go,
Yes.
Now looking ahead, if these current political trends continue, where is Nigeria likely to be in 2025? And for Nigerians, could you give them a little lesson they should take from 2025 moving 2026 all the way to, the election year?
Nigeria and Nigerians have been described as very resilient people. You know, we are quite diverse in this country, and there is always strength in diversity. The reality of life is that in Nigeria, we don't have religious issues. We don't have ethnic issues. We don't have supposedly political issues. Politics is supposed to be a game of numbers. Is supposed to be a game of ideas. In Nigeria, those things are thrown up for political expediencies. But when we leave Nigeria, you meet any Nigerian anywhere, do you know you really don't ask them if they are Christian, Muslim, where they come from? The first thing, you're Nigerian, you That's greet, right. You hug, you're like, this is my brother, this is my sister.
And that is enough.
And that is what it is. It has always been. In the National Assembly, please tell me, is there anything like ethnicity, religion, when they want to share money, or they only fight when one side is not favored?
Quickly, we have a couple of seconds to go.
So the reality is that Nigerians are very resilient, and I know that whatever Nigerians are going through today, Nigerians have made up their mind what they want to do in 2027, and no amount of coercion will change the minds of Nigerians, because Nigerians are yearning for good governance. They are yearning for quality leadership led by men of competence, character, and of course men who are able to say A and it remains A.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Osemeka, for giving us all the good highlights of 2025 and hoping to see a better 2026 and a better election year when it comes to 2027. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Emmanuel Osemeka. Right.
Pardon me, Dr. Emmanuel
Thank
Osemeka.
you very much. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, we'll be going on a sharp break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the front pages of our national dailies and see what made it there. We'll be right back.